The recovery stage of radiation poisoning, that insidious lull before the true storm, is often the most dangerous period because it offers a cruel illusion of hope, even as irreversible cellular devastation silently unfolds. It's a moment where a person, having absorbed a lethal dose, might feel temporarily better, their initial symptoms receding, only for the unseen damage to relentlessly progress, cementing their fate. This horrifying deception played out with agonizing clarity for Louis Slotin, a brilliant Canadian physicist who, in the pursuit of unlocking atomic secrets, held the very fires of hell in his hands. Born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in 1910, Louis Alexander Slotin was a man of extraordinary intellect and restless energy. By the age of 24, he had already earned a Ph.D. in physical chemistry from King's College London. But it wasn't his academic prowess alone that defined him, it was his daring, his willingness to push boundaries, to stand where others hesitated. This very trait, so vital to scientific discovery, would ultimately lead him to the desolate mesas of Los Alamos, New Mexico, and into a direct confrontation with the ultimate destructive force, the uncontrolled atomic chain reaction. The year was 1946. World War II had ended, but the Cold War was simmering, and the race to perfect atomic weapons continued. Slotin was a key figure in the Manhattan Project, a member of the critical group known as bomb makers. His particular expertise lay in the perilous art of criticality experiments, the delicate dance of bringing fissile material, like plutonium or uranium, to the brink of a chain reaction, ensuring it wouldn't go prompt, as they called it, meaning an uncontrolled detonation. These were not theoretical exercises, these were hands-on manipulations of deadly materials, often performed without the shielding that later became standard. The target of his work was the Demon Core, a 6.2 kilogram sphere of plutonium. This same core had been involved in a similar accident just 9 months prior, claiming the life of another physicist, Harry Daghlian, who had accidentally dropped a tungsten carbide brick onto it. Slotin himself had been supervising Daghlian's experiment. Yet, despite the recent tragedy and the known dangers, Slotin continued his work with a certain audacious confidence, a belief in his own steady hand. The experiments were nicknamed tickling the dragon's tail, an apt description for the incredibly precise, almost theatrical, risk involved. On May 21, 1946, Slotin stood in a remote laboratory at Los Alamos, surrounded by 7 colleagues. He was demonstrating a procedure he had performed dozens of times, using 2 beryllium-coated hemispheres to surround the plutonium core. The goal was to measure how close the core was to becoming critical by observing its neutron emissions. He used a screwdriver, rather than the prescribed shims, to maintain a tiny gap between the hemispheres, a practice known to be inherently dangerous, a shortcut he believed saved time and gave him better control. It was a testament to his hubris, or perhaps his deep familiarity with the material, that he felt such a small tool was sufficient to hold back the atomic monster. Imagine the scene. The hum of equipment, the stark industrial lighting, the palpable tension in the air. Slotin, intense and focused, held the upper beryllium hemisphere with his left thumb through a hole at the top, his right hand manipulating the screwdriver. The gap between the hemispheres narrowed, closer and closer to criticality. Every eye in the room was fixed on him, a mixture of awe and apprehension. The air, usually still, seemed to thicken with unspoken fear. One misstep, one twitch, one slip, and everything would change. And then, it happened. His screwdriver slipped. The upper hemisphere, no longer held apart, slammed shut onto the lower one, completely enclosing the plutonium core. In that instant, the core achieved prompt criticality. A brilliant blue flash, almost violet, erupted from the core, accompanied by a wave of heat that felt like a furnace blast. The room filled with the acrid smell of ozone, metallic and sharp, a signature of intense ionization. A single, distinct pop echoed through the lab, quickly followed by the shriek of radiation alarms. Slotin, in a flash of instinct, ripped the upper hemisphere apart with his bare hands, stopping the chain reaction, saving his colleagues from a similar, immediate dose, but sealing his own fate. The initial reaction was profound. Slotin immediately felt a sour taste in his mouth, an intensely metallic sensation, and a burning pain in his left hand, the one he had used to separate the hemispheres. This was the prodromal stage of acute radiation syndrome, the body's first, violent protest against the unseen assault. Within minutes, he was nauseous, retching uncontrollably. His skin, particularly on his hands, turned red and blotchy, an erythema much like a severe sunburn. Headaches pounded behind his eyes, and a deep, overwhelming fatigue washed over him. He knew instantly what had happened, and calmly, though with a tremor in his voice, instructed his colleagues to mark their positions in the room on a blackboard, to help estimate their individual doses. For the next few hours, Slotin continued to experience waves of intense nausea and vomiting, followed by periods of relative calm. His colleagues, all of whom had received significantly lower doses thanks to Slotin's immediate action, were also under observation, experiencing milder symptoms. But Slotin, the one closest to the source, the one who had absorbed an estimated 2,100 rads of radiation, more than double the lethal dose for humans, was in a different category entirely. The pain in his hand intensified, and he began to feel a deep, burning sensation throughout his body. Then came the cruel deception, the latent stage. For the next few days, Slotin's symptoms miraculously receded. The nausea subsided. The burning pain in his hand lessened. He felt stronger, almost normal. He was able to walk around, talk, and even meet with his parents, who had rushed to Los Alamos. He engaged in conversation, attempting to reassure them, to maintain a semblance of his former self. His colleagues, monitoring his condition with growing apprehension, noted his apparent improvement. This brief period of remission, this false dawn, is precisely why the recovery stage can be so dangerously misleading in radiation poisoning. The victim, and their loved ones, are lulled into believing the worst might be over, that a full recovery is possible, even as the microscopic damage multiplies and progresses relentlessly within every cell. During this latent phase, while Slotin felt deceptively better, the radiation was waging a silent, devastating war within his body. The high-energy particles had ripped through the DNA of rapidly dividing cells, particularly those in the bone marrow, the gastrointestinal tract, and the skin. White blood cell counts, a critical indicator, began their precipitous decline, silently compromising his immune system. Platelet production plummeted, hindering blood clotting. The delicate lining of his intestines, responsible for nutrient absorption, was disintegrating. It was a biological clock ticking down, unseen, unheard, but utterly unstoppable. By the fifth day, the horrifying truth began to assert itself. The manifest illness stage had arrived, dragging Slotin back into an agonizing reality. The nausea and vomiting returned with renewed vengeance, far more severe than the initial onset. His temperature spiked, and chills racked his body. His white blood cell count had plummeted to nearly zero, leaving him utterly defenseless against even the most common bacteria. His gums began to bleed, and dark purpuric spots, indicating internal hemorrhaging, appeared under his skin. The metallic taste returned, stronger and fouler than before, a constant reminder of the internal decay. The skin on his hands, particularly his left, became grotesquely swollen and blistered, turning a deep, angry purple. It was as if his very flesh was cooking from the inside out. Doctors attempted skin grafts, but his body, ravaged by radiation, was incapable of healing. The grafts failed, the tissue unable to regenerate. He was suffering from what would later be understood as severe radiation burns, his cells dying off faster than they could be replaced. The pain became constant, searing, and unbearable, requiring heavy doses of narcotics, which barely dulled the edges of his torment. His gastrointestinal tract, stripped of its protective lining, became a gateway for infection. He developed unrelenting diarrhea, dehydration, and excruciating abdominal pain. His body could no longer absorb nutrients, leading to rapid weight loss and severe weakness. His hair, like so many victims of extreme radiation exposure, began to fall out in clumps, a visible sign of the systemic cellular destruction. He became a shadow of his former robust self, his bright eyes now sunken and haunted. The air in the room, despite all efforts, seemed to take on a sickly, antiseptic odor, mixed with the faint, unsettling scent of his deteriorating body. As the days crawled on, Slotin's condition worsened dramatically. His immune system completely collapsed, leaving him vulnerable to every pathogen. His blood refused to clot, leading to widespread internal bleeding. His body, once a marvel of biological engineering, was systematically failing, organ by organ. The radiation had effectively shut down the fundamental processes of regeneration and repair. He was trapped in a living nightmare, completely aware of his impending death, yet powerless to stop it. He reportedly remarked to his doctors, with a grim clarity, that he knew what was happening to him, and that there was nothing more they could do. On the 9th day after the accident, May 30, 1946, Louis Slotin entered the terminal stage. His condition was critical beyond hope. He experienced a final, massive wave of nausea and vomiting, followed by a profound coma. His breathing became shallow and erratic. His heart, weakened by the systemic assault, struggled to maintain its rhythm. His kidneys failed, toxins accumulating in his blood. There was nothing left to do but make him as comfortable as possible, surrounded by the hushed whispers and solemn faces of doctors and colleagues who had become witnesses to an unprecedented form of human suffering. At 11 a.m., 9 days after the blue flash, Louis Slotin died. The cause of death was officially recorded as acute radiation syndrome. He was 35 years old. His final hours were a testament to the brutal, relentless power of uncontrolled atomic energy, a power he had sought to harness, and which ultimately consumed him. The brilliant mind, the steady hand, the daring spirit, all extinguished by an invisible enemy that tore him apart at the cellular level. Slotin's death sent shockwaves through the scientific community and within the still-secret world of the atomic bomb project. It was the second fatality from criticality experiments within a year at Los Alamos, leading to a complete re-evaluation of safety protocols. From that day forward, hands-on criticality experiments were banned. All such work transitioned to remote control, using robotic systems and thick shielding, ensuring human operators were never again in direct physical proximity to the dragon's tail. His sacrifice, though tragic, directly led to safer procedures that undoubtedly saved countless lives in the decades of nuclear research and development that followed. Louis Slotin's story remains a chilling testament to the dangers of pushing the boundaries of science and the insidious nature of radiation poisoning. It's a stark reminder that the body's apparent recovery can be the most dangerous phase of all, a fleeting moment of peace before the full, irreversible consequences of atomic devastation come crashing down. His legacy is not just one of scientific contribution, but a profound human story of courage, perhaps recklessness, and an agonizing death that forever changed the way humanity approached the power of the atom. It forces us to confront the true cost of knowledge, etched in the suffering of those who dared to touch the fire.